What's going on, everybody? Jeff Holiday. I am, what is this, day 4 into 100 days, 100 videos. I think this is day 4. And this one is going to be a little bit more coherent as opposed to the other kind of fever dream hallucination ones that I have been making. And the reason for this is because the new news that just came out from San Diego Comic-Con about Thor, Love and Thunder. And it was revealed that they're going to be tackling, at least in part, the Mighty Thor timeline. For those who don't know, I am a huge comic fan. Huge. I am, in fact, actually also a big Thor fan. This is actually a short run under the Marvel Max series, which was their mature run. But this is written by Garth Ennis, and this Thor Vikings is amazing. I found this in the local comic shop lately, and I was like, oh, yoink. Anyway, so I love comic books. I've always been a huge comic nerd. Not one of those like, well, I love the comic books. I've seen every Iron Man movie. Like, no. Like, since I was 6 years old, I've been reading my brother's comic books, and I was reading my comic books. So I am very opinionated, but I'm also very knowledgeable on this kind of stuff. And so the internet, of course, exploded with a bunch of people who don't understand about how now Thor is going to be a woman, and they're very upset. Well, the first thing I can say to that is it happened in the comic books. How it began was there was a crossover event called Original Sin, where effectively every secret was suddenly released in the Marvel Universe. Everybody knew everything. And I think it was the Watcher. Somebody whispered something into Thor's ear, and Thor became unworthy and could no longer pick up Meow Meow, or Mjolnir, his hammer anymore. And it stayed there on the moon, and he became the unworthy Thor, which coincidentally led to a short-run series of books called The Unworthy Thor, and they were magnificent. They were really, really well written. Keep in mind, around this time, the comic book Thor had been going through a very wild experimental phase, and it's still in it now, where they were dealing with like the far, far future, like billions of years in the future, and Thor is one of the last living entities in the universe. Then they'd go back in time to like origin story of young Thor before he could pick up the hammer. They're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And it was all good. It was all really, really fun. Well, around this time, they decided that with Thor becoming unworthy, the hammer is going to be picked up by a mystery woman. For anybody who was a hardcore comic fan, we pretty much could guess right away who it was. Yeah, pretty much guessed it right away. Now, the problem with this is, this led to a very ham-fisted, social justice-y type of comic book. It did. And that persisted for, I'd say, like 6 months or so, with the storylines being pretty god-awful and really annoying and really obnoxious, and nobody wanted to read the damn book because it was just so cringy. It was so in your face, like, girl power. Like, god damn it. But then something happened. The comic book didn't sell very well, and so the writers changed. They adapted it, and instead of focusing on this being like a very woke and empowered kind of vibe, they changed it into what it became, which was an incredible story about a tragic hero. Now, from this point on, if you care about the storyline behind the Mighty Thor, or Thor Lovin', whatever the fuck it's gonna get called, you should probably skip the rest of this video, because I'm just gonna spoil the whole damn thing, because it's a really good story, and I'd like to sell you on the possibility that this movie might be pretty good, including the fact that it's also gonna be directed by Taika Waititi, and he's amazing. So, spoilers, that's your spoiler wonder. Love and Thunder, that's right. That's your spoiler warning. 3, 2, 1, go. All right. So, one of the amazing aspects of the Mighty Thor was that this was a mystery person, but when it was revealed who it was, which was Jane Foster, Thor's ex-girlfriend, it was also revealed that there was a problem, that she was also she had contracted a terminal case of cancer. And whereas it was a treatable form of cancer and she could go to chemotherapy, every time she grabbed the hammer and turned into the mighty Thor, it basically reset every little bit of work she had gotten towards getting healthy, towards beating her cancer. So she had to make the choice to either survive or to be Thor. And this is right at the beginning of a very large and is still ongoing crossover event, the War of the Realms, where all throughout the Thor universe, the multiverse, people are being massacred. And so there's nobody who can really help them or save them except for the mighty Thor. So she has to choose to willingly put herself on the path of slow, agonizing, painful death just so that she can be the hero that people need her to be. All the rest of the things of being like ham-fisted girl power or like girls do it better than boys, gone, eradicated, just was off into the nothingness and never came back up again. And instead, it focused on this truly tragic but incredibly heroic character. Jane Foster turned out to be, in many ways, a better Thor just because of the nature of what she had to sacrifice in order to be Thor. Now, there's the problem with the name Thor. And that's one that people are going to be bringing up, and they're going to argue over and over and over again that, well, she can't be Thor because Thor is supposed to be son of Odin. This is historical. This is, mythology. Sure. Here's my counter to that. This is a comic book. It's a comic book. So, yeah, I can understand you might get a little cranky, a little pissed off about it. I understand. I get your point, but the thing is, this is not a historical document. This is not a reflection necessarily. This is a creative liberty from something that was mythological. So, I get your point, but your point might keep you from enjoying something that's actually really cool. Nobody actually loses in that except you. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but we got to be real. We got to be real with this. So ultimately, as was the case, and I knew it, and most people who've been reading comics for a long time knew this, that this was not like the new normal. This was only going to last so long. And that eventually, the mighty Thor would come to an end. And of course, it came to an end with an extreme sacrifice. Now, it does feel a little hollow, but it's also very comic booky that ultimately her soul was saved. I think by Odin, just because of all the sacrifice that she did. But basically, Jane Foster then retired from being Thor and has since put her cancer into remission to remain a background character. But for a time, for about 2 to 3-ish years, we got a really interesting, really cool story. Now, do I think that this is going to be reflected perfectly in Thor Love and Thunder? Probably not. But I do trust in Taika Waititi's ability to craft a really good story that's going to be engaging. And I think that Hollywood is becoming self-aware enough at this point that they know that you can't really be ham-fisted with the progressive social justice framing. You have to use a little bit more expertise. You have to sell people on the idea without trying to shove it down their throat. And as they're getting better at it,
6
good.
months, that's half a year.
I thank you so much for totally ruining my video award. I really appreciate it. But thank you so much. And that also would help me to remind people who are watching this video in the future that I do have a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/RealJeffHoliday, where you can watch me record these live. Anyway, with that, if you get a chance to go back and read The Mighty Thor, the first few issues are going to be a little hard to get through. But if you can get through them and you can get into the real meat of the story, it's an incredible story. And I would very much recommend you check it out. 100%. And I am looking forward to Thor Love and Thunder. Bye bye.